There is a kind of silence that does not just hurt you. It rearranges you. It makes you stare at your phone like it has become a mirror, and somehow all it reflects back is your fear. The unread message, the delayed reply, the sudden coldness after warmth so intense it felt almost sacred. One moment they were there, leaning in, opening up, making you feel chosen. And then something shifted. Their energy thinned out. Their words got shorter. Their presence became a doorway that kept closing just as you reached it. And the worst part is not the silence itself. It is what the silence makes you do. It makes you explain more than you should. Reach out again when your body is begging you not to. It makes you rehearse the perfect message, the perfect timing, the perfect softness, hoping this version of you will finally be easy enough to keep. You tell yourself you are fighting for love, but if you are honest, what you are really fighting is panic. You are trying to stop the ache before it swallows you whole. And that is exactly where everything goes wrong. Because when someone has avoidant attachment, the more they feel your panic, the more their nervous system reads the connection as pressure. Not love, not devotion, pressure. Their body does not translate intensity the way yours does. Where you feel closeness, they often feel engulfment. Where you feel reassurance, they may feel demand. Where you feel urgency, they feel danger. So the harder you push to be understood, the less safe they feel being near you. That is the brutal truth. Not because you are too much, not because you are hard to love, but because when you are dysregulated, you start speaking the language of fear to someone whose deepest instinct is already to run from emotional intensity. And if you have been trapped in this pattern, I need you to hear something that may sting before it heals. You cannot chase an avoidant into choosing you. The more you abandon yourself to keep their attention, the more you confirm the very dynamic that keeps them distant. You become the source of emotional heat, and they become the ones searching for air. This is why so many people feel insane after dealing with an avoidant. Not weak, not dramatic, insane. Because the connection often begins with a kind of intimacy that feels almost supernatural. Avoidance can be deeply present in the beginning, attentive, intense, even tender in a way that gets under your skin fast. But when real emotional dependence starts to form, something older than logic begins to wake up inside them. The amygdala does not care how kind you are. It does not care how good your intentions are. It does not care that you would never hurt them. Its job is not romance. Its job is survival. And for many avoidants, closeness once got linked to pain, shame, disappointment, or loss of freedom. So when emotional intimacy deepens, their nervous system can light up as if something dangerous is happening. Cortisol rises, their body tightens, their thoughts become foggy or irritable. They suddenly need space, but cannot explain why. They start feeling trapped by the very connection they wanted 2 weeks ago, not because they stopped caring, because caring started to cost them internal peace. That is what most people get wrong. They think the avoidant became cold because the feelings were fake. No. Many times, the feelings were real enough to scare them. That is why their distance feels so personal. Because part of them did care. Part of them still does. But once the bond activates vulnerability, an old protective system takes over. Detach, minimize, delay, rationalize, find flaws, pull back, reclaim control. Their nervous system says, if this matters too much, it can hurt me too much. So they disappear emotionally before they disappear physically. They answer slower. They become vague. They act fine while quietly cutting the energetic cord one thread at a time. And you, feeling that shift, become even more emotionally alert. Your dopamine starts getting trained by unpredictability. The little crumbs of warmth feel intoxicating because they come after deprivation. Your body starts mistaking relief for love. Now you are both trapped. You chase because distance terrifies you. They withdraw because closeness terrifies them. And nobody wins. This is why the 3 words I'm about to give you matter so much. Not because they are manipulation, not because they are some cheap trick, but because they interrupt the exact nervous system pattern that keeps this whole dynamic alive. Those 3 words are simple. Take your time. That is it. Take your time. To most people, those words sound almost too small to matter, too calm, too plain. But to an avoidant nervous system, when they are spoken from true emotional steadiness, those 3 words can land like oxygen. Because what an avoidant fears most is not always love. It is the feeling that love will become pressure, that your needs will swallow them, that your emotions will become their responsibility. That one message they do not answer fast enough will turn into an emotional courtroom where they are already guilty. So when you say, take your time, without hidden resentment, without passive aggression, without trying to force a reaction, you do something powerful. You remove the chase. You remove the demand. You remove the sense that they are one delayed text away from disappointing you. And suddenly, for the first time in a long time, you are no longer embodying the threat their body expects. You are embodying safety. That changes everything. Imagine it. They pull back a little. You feel it immediately because, of course, you do. The old version of you would send the follow-up text. Maybe something emotional. Maybe something casual, pretending not to be emotional. Maybe a joke, hiding a wound. Anything to close the gap before the silence starts saying things your mind cannot survive. But this time, you stop. You breathe through the spike in your chest. You let the wave pass through instead of obeying it. And when you do speak, you do not perform pain. You do not beg for clarity. You do not over-explain your heart. You simply say, take your time. Now notice what happens on their side. At first, maybe nothing obvious. That is important. Because if you say these words only to get an immediate response, you are still chasing. You are just chasing in a prettier outfit. But internally, something happens. Their usual script does not fit. They expected pressure. You gave them room. They expected guilt. You gave them calm. They expected emotional consequence. You gave them dignity. And that is disorienting. Because avoidants are often used to distance-creating pursuit. They are used to silence increasing your hunger. They are used to people proving love by losing themselves. When you do not do that, when your energy remains grounded and self-held, you become psychologically unforgettable. Not because you played hard to get, because you were hard to destabilize. That lingers. They start thinking about the message later than they expected. In the shower, in the car, at midnight when their apartment is too quiet and their defenses are lower. Take your time. No anger, no guilt, no demand, just space. And space, when it is not empty but emotionally clean, does something strange to avoidance. It lets their real feelings come back. Pressure shuts them down. Absence of pressure lets them feel. This is the paradox most people miss. The more you try to force an avoidant to access their emotions in real time, the more their system protects itself by numbing out. But when there is no emotional corner to fight their way out of, they often begin to miss what they ran from. Your steadiness, your softness, your non-reactivity, the way you did not make them pay for needing air. Now the power begins to shift, not into manipulation, into gravity. Because when you stop orbiting them, they can finally feel the weight of your absence. And yes, they feel absence differently than anxious people do. They may not panic outwardly. They may not send dramatic paragraphs. They may even act normal for a while. But do not mistake outward composure for inner indifference. Avoidants often process longing in delayed waves. They suppress first, feel later. When the nervous system settles, when the cortisol drops, when the emotional noise quiets down, that is when your presence starts echoing. They remember the way you looked at them without trying to own them. They remember your warmth. They remember what it felt like to be near someone who wanted closeness without turning it into control. And if you handled the pullback with dignity, they start comparing. Comparing you to the chaos they expected, comparing your restraint to every past dynamic that became too heavy too fast, comparing the peace of your energy to the turbulence inside their own mind. That is when the obsession begins. Quietly, internally, almost against their will. Because now they are not trying to escape you. They are trying to understand why they cannot stop thinking about you. Was it the way you did not chase? Was it the way you seemed to care without collapsing? Was it the way your silence did not feel like punishment, but self-respect? Yes, it was all of that. And this is where I need to be very clear. The real magic is not in the words alone. If you say, "Take your time," but spend the next 6 hours checking their status, rereading old messages, stalking their story, spiraling into fantasies, and waiting for them to validate your worth, they will still feel the pressure. Maybe not through the screen, but through the energetic residue of your desperation. People feel when you are using calm as a strategy instead of living it as a state. The words only work when they are true. Take your time, because I am no longer abandoning myself while you decide. Take your time, because your confusion is not my emergency. Take your time, because my nervous system will not be built around your inconsistency anymore. That is the deeper message, and that is why it lands. An avoidant does not think nonstop about the person who chased hardest. They think about the person who felt safe, rare, and impossible to reduce into a role. The one who did not become a mother, therapist, pursuer, emotional hostage negotiator. The one who remained a whole person. That is unforgettable. Picture the old dynamic for a second. They pull away. You react. They feel crowded. They detach more. You protest harder. They numb out. You feel abandoned. They feel controlled. Same wound, same ending. Over and over until love starts to feel like reenactment instead of connection. Now, picture the shift. They pull away. You notice it, but you do not collapse. You respond once, calmly. Take your time. Then you return to your life, not as a performance, as a decision. You go back to your body, your routines, your sleep, your standards, your friends, your work, your healing. You stop building altars to ambiguity, and in that moment, even if they do come back, something fundamental has changed. They are no longer the center of the story. You are. That is what makes you powerful. Not that they start chasing, not that they start texting more, not that they finally confess their feelings and hand you the ending you wanted. Those things may happen. Often they do, especially when the avoidant realizes you are no longer available for the old game, especially when your calm forces them to confront the loss instead of outsourcing the emotional labor to your pursuit, especially when your absence stops being a safety net and becomes a real mirror. But even if they do start reaching out, missing you, obsessing, wondering who else now gets the version of you they took for granted, that is still not the victory. The victory is that you did not have to betray yourself to become unforgettable. That matters, because there is a dangerous part of this conversation no one talks about enough. Once you learn how to regulate instead of chase, once you learn how to speak safety instead of fear, avoidance can absolutely feel more drawn to you. But if you use that power to re-enter the same unhealed dynamic, you will suffer in a more sophisticated way. You will become the calm one, the understanding one, the endlessly patient one. And if they are not doing their own work, your emotional intelligence will simply become a more elegant cage. So hear me carefully. Do not use these words to keep someone emotionally unavailable in your life longer. Do not use them to earn crumbs with grace. Do not use them to prove you are different enough to be chosen. Do not use self-regulation as a way to tolerate chronic neglect. That is not healing. That is self-abandonment in a beautiful voice. The pattern only truly breaks when your calm is not a tactic to keep them close, but a boundary that reveals who they really are when you stop chasing. Some avoidants will soften when they feel safe. Some will finally open. Some will come back with more honesty, more effort, more presence. And some will simply enjoy the lack of pressure while still remaining unavailable. You must know the difference. Because the point of your healing is not just to be deeply desired, it is to be deeply discerned. To stop confusing being wanted with being met. To stop romanticizing emotional starvation because it comes with intensity. To stop calling it chemistry when your nervous system is just reliving uncertainty. You deserve more than being unforgettable. You deserve to be safe in love. And once that truth enters your body, not just your mind, your whole identity starts to change. You stop asking, how do I make them think about me? And start asking, why was I taught that love must be earned through suffering? You stop measuring your value by how long someone takes to come back. You stop turning their emotional limitations into your personal test. You stop worshipping mixed signals because they mimic passion. You become quieter inside, clearer, less available for confusion, less impressed by intensity without consistency, less tempted to decode crumbs as destiny. And ironically, that is when you become magnetic in a way that has nothing to do with games. Because there is nothing more powerful than a person who no longer negotiates with their own worth. When you say, take your time, from that place, you are not asking them to pick you. You are revealing that you have already picked yourself. That is the real spell. Not 3 words, 3 truths hidden inside them. I am not chasing. I am not collapsing. I am not yours to lose and reclaim on your convenience. Feel how different that is. Feel how your spine changes when you remember who you are. Feel how the panic weakens when you stop treating someone else's avoidance like a verdict on your lovability. Feel how much life returns to you when you stop standing outside an emotionally locked door, begging to be let in by someone who is still afraid of their own heart. Maybe they will think about you non-stop after that. Maybe they will miss you in ways they cannot admit. Maybe your calm will haunt them because it showed them a kind of love they were not ready for. But let that be their lesson. Your lesson is bigger. Your lesson is that you were never meant to shrink into pursuit just because somebody else confuses closeness with danger. You were never meant to bleed for breadcrumbs. You were never meant to prove your worth by surviving emotional drought with a smile. You were meant to become the kind of person whose peace is so expensive that inconsistency cannot afford you. So if they pull away, do not panic. Do not perform. Do not translate your fear into over-functioning. Breathe. Return to yourself. And if the moment calls for words, let them be simple. Take your time. Then mean it. Mean it so deeply that whether they come closer, stay distant, or disappear completely, your center remains intact. Because the deepest power is not making an avoidant obsess over you. It is becoming someone who no longer needs to be obsessed over to feel worthy. And once you reach that place, something extraordinary happens. You stop being the person waiting to be chosen in silence. You become the silence that chooses itself.